All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, February 14th. I got my red on because I'm festive, but we got a huge NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about all the games. I'll give you any player props that I like with them as well. But as always, keep an eye on the pinned comment for my final plays if you do want to fade me. And before we even jump into the picks, I think I'm coming down or got some sort of a bug or something, was like barely slept. So if this seems low energy or I say some crazy crap, we'll see. But just FYI, I do think that I'm coming down a little something, but we're powering through, we're grinding it out. But nonetheless, guys, like I said, huge NBA slate to dive into for today's slate. Before we do, let's recap yesterday. It was a 1-1 night. Jaylen Brown over 5.5 first quarter points. He finished with 4. That was like the first time in a million games against the Nets that they didn't cash it. Nonetheless, a loss. And then the Suns minus 3.5. That was a cash. They ended up winning by 5 there. So a 1-1 night, not really anything to cry over, but we're not celebrating it either, right? What we can celebrate is pumping in some crowd noise for Picked It. He had Bam Adebayo under 23.5 points for the ride of the day last night. That cashed. He had 16 points. Bam had a triple-double, but only finished with 16 points. So cash the ride of the day. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, all you got to do is use hashtag ride of the day in the comments right here on YouTube. And I'm jumping on board with one person's pick and giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also giving you a shout out over on my Twitter at EvGuyBoston if you guys do want to follow me there. But if we ride with you and you win, we continue to ride with you. So Picked is going to go for his third straight dub in today. So make sure to get that ride of the day in the comments picked, and keep dropping your ride of the days in the comments because I'm scanning and scouting, and when or if we have to pick a new person, I want to see who is ready. But guys, go ahead and jump into the games for today. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, and let's get rocking and rolling. We're starting off with a game that I'm not too fond of, but I guess with there being so many games on the slate, obviously there's going to be some bad games out there, right? But we're looking at Charlotte taking on Atlanta. Right now, Charlotte, 7-point dogs at home, total sitting at 238.5. Charlotte coming off of 2 straight wins here. They beat Memphis, and then they beat Indiana a couple nights back. Atlanta coming off of a loss a couple nights ago, a 10-point loss against Chicago. They were 5-point favorites in that game. In terms of injuries here, we do have plenty of guys injured on the Hawks, but kind of the guys that have been injured here. Okongwu, though, is injured. That's a huge one because now their starting lineup's going to look a little bit different because Capella has been out. Now Okongwu's out, so they're going to have Bruno Fernando at the starting center position there. And then in terms of what we're looking at for Charlotte, you know, not really any new injuries either. I guess Cody Martin being the only one to keep an eye on. He's probable Wednesday. He is a starter, so if he gets the go, that could impact things. But in terms of a spread pick here, I don't really love, taking Charlotte in this spot, so I'm going to by default lean towards the Hawks. I know Charlotte's won 2 straight games. I get that, and that's good for them, but I just can't really trust them. Maybe since the trade deadline and shifting things up and shaking things up, maybe they're going to play a little bit different, but it's just not a team I'm willing to trust. Are the Hawks trustworthy? Hell no. This team has been terrible against the spread all year long. Still consistently the worst team against the spread in the league, but Charlotte's the second worst, okay? So if we're just going to compare talent now, I'm going to lean towards the Hawks here, minus the points. It is a big number. I don't anticipate that being a final play, but nonetheless, that's the way I'm leaning. In terms of a total, 238, I don't mind taking a peek at the under here. I do think the public side is going to be looking at, well, these two teams don't play any defense or anything like that, but Charlotte has been playing super slow. They are the home team here. They've cashed an under to this line in 7 of their last 10 games. Now, on the inverse, Atlanta has cashed the over to this line in 9 of their last 10. So if you like the over, that definitely is on your side. But I just don't really see Charlotte, competing with the tempo and whatnot. If they slow things down, this could be a slower game here. So again, those kind of counter each other too, I would say, because if Atlanta just gets out and runs, Charlotte's not going to be able to keep up with them. Helps our spread lean, right? But if Charlotte does kind of slow things down, it helps the underplay, but probably makes it harder for Atlanta to get a bigger lead. But nonetheless, those are my leans on the spread and total. In terms of player props, I'm not minding taking a peek at Jalen Johnson over 15.5 points. Last time he played this Charlotte team, he had 21 points. He shot the ball 13 times, scored 60% of those. They struggle against power forwards. On the season here, Charlotte allowing the 6th most points to the power forward position, and then as of late, still doing a top 10. And I do think that, like I said, if Atlanta pushes that tempo, this could be a good spot for him to get those buckets. And, you know, looking at Bruno Fernando down there now, we could see some more Jalen Johnson second chance points as well. My one concern would be minutes. This dude is like literally to the minute important in terms of how many points he scores. If he doesn't play actually like 36 minutes, he has a tough time hitting 16 points. So 36 minutes is a lot to ask for. If we think the minute's going to be there, I could pull the trigger on this, but keep an eye on the pinned comment to see what we ultimately end up rolling with in this game, if anything. Next up, we're looking at the Orlando Magic taking on the Knicks here. Right now, Magic sitting as favorites, -3.5 at home. Makes a little bit of sense, right? This Knicks team, obviously they're beaten and bruised, banged up, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. They haven't covered in 5 straight games. Dante DiVincenzo is now questionable in this spot, so you do have a really, like I said, beaten and bruised team. And Dante DiVincenzo left the last game, so, you know, that's obviously not the best sign. That game was a couple days ago, so maybe he's had time to heal up. But nonetheless, keep an eye on that injury report. I think even with DiVincenzo, I'm going to lean Magic here minus the 3.5 points. They lost their last game, which was yesterday. They're on a second night of a back-to-back, so that could be like, oh, that's a little unfortunate, right? But not that this is a great sign, but they are 50-50 this year in covering in back-to-back situations. So it's not in the red, right? If this is green, meaning they cover a lot on back-to-backs, red meaning they don't cover on back-to-backs, it's kind of yellow. It's like right in the middle. So it's not necessarily a knock for me. Now they're at home here. And in terms of being at home, I do love this spot for them. 67% of games they've covered at home. And the Knicks, in terms of, you know, having a rest advantage over the team, it really hasn't benefited them this year. So give me Orlando in this spot. If this was a healthy Knicks team, I think the breakdown of this game would be entirely different, right? I would probably be leaning towards the Knicks in this spot. But even that being said, the 2 times that they've played this year, Orlando 117-108, and then last month, about a month ago, 98-94. So we have Orlando kind of having the Knicks number here as well. So give me them minus the 3.5 points. And then in terms of a total, 211.5. I mean, no kidding, that's such a low number. You want to kind of take the over. I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm actually going to lean towards the under in this spot, as weird as it is. Like, that just seems super, super low to me. Super, super low to me for a reason, I should say. Like, the books are dangling the bait in front of us, and it's like, yeah, they're probably asking for people to take the over because it's so low. I don't know if I can get there. Now, I don't mean to say that and kind of allude that it'll be a final play. I still think it could be kind of crazy to take an under 211.5, right? Like, you might just be better off staying away from it. From a player prop perspective, I don't mind looking at Paolo Banchero over points plus assists. My concern is that total, right? So his line right now is 26.5. If he had, so his point line is 21.5. So if he scores 22 points and hits his point line individually, right? That's the at minimum 40, or 22 points that accounts for this total, which is only at 211. You split that in half, you're looking at like a team total of 105 for Orlando. So he's going to have like nearly a quarter of their points. And then you throw in the assists in there. It's 5.5 right now. If he hits his over an assist, that's 6, a minimum of 12 points, a potential of like 18, right? You're looking at him accounting for like 40% of their team's points, which seems like so much in a game that I don't hate the under, right? So that might sound crazy to people, but when you break it down like that, it's kind of scary to be like, all right, is there going to be enough volume? The dude has been averaging 11.5 potential assists per game over his last 10, averaging 7 assists over his last 10. So yeah, I think having points and assists in there, all that being said, looks good. My concern is the volume in that total. Is it going to be that low scoring of a game? Like last time they played, they were in the 90s. Are we really going to say that Paolo Banchero is going to account for 50% of their points, whether it's him scoring or the assists? That gets a little risky to me. Sixers taking on the Heat here. This is a weird one to me because Miami, I mean, both teams are very injured, right? Miami without Jimmy Butler in this one. Terry Rozier's also out. Josh Richardson's also out, as is Drew Smith. Not that matters. For the Philly side of things, we have Tobias Harris out, Nicholas Batum out, Melton still out, Embiid obviously still out, Covington still out. So it's like a very, very weird cast and crew here. Philly, though, coming in as favorites makes it a little weird. Like this is a Philly team that has not really been all that great since Joel Embiid's been out, right? In terms of even their last 10 here, they've won just 3 of their last 10, covered in 4 of their last 10. Miami coming off a win last night against Milwaukee. You'd think that would build some momentum, but I'm going to trust the line here. I'm actually going to lean towards the Sixers. As much as my gut says take Miami, like they have their star in Bam Adebayo, right? Whereas Tyrese Maxey, I guess you could say, is a comparable player, right? Both all-stars. But something just is weird that they're coming in as strong favorites there at 3.5. This line, I believe opened up at 4, so it's kind of been bought down. Like the books didn't want to sell those Miami +4s, but now it's stayed at 3.5. And these books aren't stupid, so I'm going to lean towards the Philly Sixers here. As weird as it is, as bad as they've been, I'm kind of line reading this one. Give me them -3.5. Total sitting at 223.5. Now Miami's been playing with very slow pace, and they are on a back-to-back here. In back-to-back situations, they've hit the over in just 43% of games, so they've hit the under in 57, right? So you'd like to think that pace would kind of slow down, but the Sixers at home this year have been scoring plenty of points, but you got to take into account the team that they've had, right? Were they really, Joel Embiid centric, or is Tyrese Maxey pushing the pace? Makes it a little worrisome for me to take any sort of an over with them right now. I will give them credit that their last couple games, the offense has looked good. They now have made some trades. Like, I think there is some potential promise here. What did Buddy Hield have, like 25 in his last game with the Sixers too? So it's like maybe they got a little bit better. Maybe they're kind of softening that void or filling that void of scoring that Embiid left. But for now, I'm still going to lean towards the under in this spot ever so slightly. I don't think that makes its way into being a final play, and no real player props jump out to me in this game today. All right, guys, it's time to talk to you about OddsJam. I'm loving this tool, guys. You guys got to go check it out. That link is going to be in the pinned comment. That'll get you 7 days free. If you sign up using code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON, you'll get 25% off your first month. This is the sportsbook screen right now. I have it filtered to sportsbooks that I have, but if you want to filter to all the sportsbooks that you have, and I'll explain what we're doing in just a second, you can literally compare live odds through all of the sports books out there. And this is great because if you want to see the best spot to go and get, say, Paolo Banchero's points plus assists, I can filter to points plus assists, start typing in Banchero in the top right, and we're going to see what is offered right now. Now, a lot of these sports books don't have this line yet, but you can see the ones that do, and they give you an average odds as well as a best odds there, so you never are overpaying for plays. You want to make sure you're getting the best plays available. Very similar to their positive EV tool. I love this tool as well. For example, Wizards right now, plus 10.5 is plus 140 on BetMGM. Average sportsbooks odds have this at plus 124. So though it doesn't guarantee that the Wizards are going to cover that number, you are getting some tremendous value in terms of BetMGM mispricing their line. So make sure you guys go ahead and check out OddsJam. Again, that link is in the pinned comment. You get 7 days free with the link. You want a little something extra, you use code GUYBOSTON to get 25% off. Go check out OddsJam, guys. That's just a couple of the tools they have to make people like you and me better and more profitable sports bettors. And I have a positive EV video, kind of like a challenge, a 30-day challenge that I'm in the works, kind of behind the scenes on right now, letting you guys a peek behind the curtain that I'm going to be releasing at some point in March. So very, very excited for that to come out as well. Go check it out, guys. Link in the pinned comment. All right, next up, we got my Boston Celtics taking on the Brooklyn Nets. We just saw this game last night. It was in Brooklyn, though, so now it's in Boston, home and home here. And the Celtics are 13.5-point favorites. And as big of a Celtics fan as I am, beating a team 2 times in a row, they say the saying is like beating a team twice is tough, right? Beating them literally back-to-back nights in a row by a lot of points seems hard. So I'm going to lean towards the Nets in this one. I'm not going to pull the trigger, and I don't want to bet against my Boston Celtics as good as they've been this year and as good as they've been at home. But 13.5 just gets a little bit too much for me to confidently lean. They did win by 18. They won 118 to 110 last night, so it was an 8-point victory and 1 over the total, right, that we have today. So I think this game goes very similar. Maybe it's an 8-point game, slight over lean as well. When it comes to player props, I do have a few that I like here. So we'll start with the 2 assist props. Mikal Bridges over 2.5 assists. He's hit this in 8 of his last 10. Over his last 5 games here, it's hit it in 3 straight games, 4, 4, 5, and then 3 and 3. He's not getting a ton of assists, but he is averaging enough potential assists per game, just under 6, for me to be confident in him trying to get 3. And the Celtics defense is going to go hound the best player in the other team, forcing him to potentially pass it up. Now, who he's passing to, that's a different story. But on the Celtics side of things, I also like Drew Holiday's over 4.5 assists as well. He had 12 last night. I don't expect him to get double digits again, but he's been a guy that is obviously starting to heat up and cook now. In his last 5 games, Drew Holiday, just lost my note. In his last 5 games here, he's averaging over 10 potential assists per game. So that means he should have a floor, not even like a ceiling, a floor of 5 assists. So we do really like to see that. And then a third player prop, just because it's been hitting and it's plus money right now, Kristaps Porzingis over 1.5 3-pointers made. Like I said, it's plus money over on FanDuel. By the way, we have a link to FanDuel in the pinned comment as well. You can bet $5. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 play wins. Just go take like a huge money line favorite. You get $150 free bucks from FanDuel. Don't tell him I told you. Link in the pinned comment. But yeah, Porzingis here, plus money on the over 1.5 threes. Don't really mind that at all. All right, Cleveland is taking on Chicago here. Cleveland's 10-point or 9.5-point favorites. I've seen some 10s out there as well. They had won 9 straight games. They lose to Philly a couple nights ago in a close game. They were 11.5-point favorites. So tough for them to catch an L there. Chicago coming off of a win against Atlanta. We already talked about that when Atlanta let it down. Chicago's playing some sneaky, decent basketball, but I feel like they're going to meet their match here. Like their last few games have been Memphis, Orlando, who I'll give them credit for, Atlanta. And it's like, okay, well, now you're playing the Cavs, one of the hottest teams in basketball, and a team that is coming off of a loss that they should have probably crushed Philly, right? So, like, they might have a little fire under their ass as well, and they're at home. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the Cavs in this spot. Give me them minus the 9.5 points. In terms of the total, 225. I'd like to think that this game would go under because Chicago slows it down, but I have a feeling that Cleveland comes in and kind of just puts in some work. So I'm probably going to lean towards the over here, actually, 225. I've also seen it a couple times here at 224.5. Not that that means it's a huge difference, but I do think that that could be a spot in which, you know, if we see that continue to go down, maybe better to wait it out. I also don't mind Cleveland's team total here over 115.5. Really juiced at 114.5. It's not like I mind it, but I think that they put up right around 118-ish in this spot. And again, it's not really because of Chicago or the way that they're playing. It's more or less they just lost to the Sixers and they scored a decent amount of points. I think that they come out firing in this spot. I probably like their team total more than the over because we've seen how, you know, overpowered that Cleveland defense has been, right? It's been pretty damn good. In terms of player props here, I'm going to take a peek at Evan Mobley over 13.5 points. I think it's a good spot for him. This is a Chicago team that has struggled literally all year long at preventing power forwards from scoring the rock. And as of late here, they're the 5th worst team at doing so. I like Mobley's spot. I'm hoping that he's going to get the field goal attempts that we need here because he's been shooting a crazy like 65% from the field, right? That's really good. That's not always that attainable. Most of his shots are makeable shots, right? But if he's going to get up towards the 13 or, you know, say anywhere from 12 to 15 shots, that's what I'm hoping for. Not necessarily him to always have to score 65% of his shots there. Last 2 times he's played them, he did hit, neither one of which this year, but 16 points and 14 points both last year. So go Evan Mobley. Great first name. That's also my first name. Let's cash that over tonight. And by the way, guys, actually comment 17 if you made it this far into the video. Let me know that you are still watching. Really long video. Probably going to be a long video. We're obviously not even done recording, but comment 17. Let me know that you've got this far. One thing I will say, it's like we're heading into the All-Star break too, right? Like, some of these guys might cheese it and take it off and not worry about these games. So definitely, even though we have a massive NBA slate, let's try and be conservative and not, you know, throw stuff at the wall and hope it sticks, especially right before the All-Star break. You know what I mean? So just kind of a PSA out there. Make sure you guys are being smart about your bets and just having the awareness that anyone could be like, yeah, we're not going to try that hard here. We're about to have a break, that type of thing. But we are looking at Toronto taking on the Pacers here. This is a Pacers team that's coming off of a bad loss to Charlotte. They were 10-point favorites. They lost the game by 9 points. Toronto coming off of, I guess you could say, as bad of a loss to San Antonio. We were on the wrong side of that. They were 6-point favorites. They lose by 23 points. So 2 teams that are looking to bounce back in this spot. From an injury perspective, Halliburton still on the injury report, as is Johnson, Smith, and Mathurin. Smith, I believe, has already been ruled out. And RJ Barrett is questionable in this one. So some injuries to definitely keep an eye on, but I'm going to lean towards Indiana minus the 4 points. They're the better team. They are on the road. I understand that, but they have a 56% cover rate on the road this season. Toronto at home, just 42.3%. So give me Indiana in this spot. Now the total sitting at 244.5. These teams are going to be able to score in transition. Both, you know, the Toronto Raptors don't play with crazy pace, but when they do, they are actually one of the better field goal percentage teams with transition possessions. And they also stink at covering transition. Same thing with the Pacers. So I do think that this could have a lot of points scored in it. I'm going to lean over. I don't think I pull the trigger on it because it's a Toronto team that I really can't trust their offense as far as I could throw them, right? But that transition numbers definitely keeps me away totally from considering under. I think that's super important. Again, a Toronto team that does not play fast, but when they do, they score in transition and let up a bunch of scoring in transition. If the Pacers just push the pace an ounce, you're going to have hot and ice going through hot butter, right? Like just scoring. And I don't want to be watching that 240.5 just kind of shrink as the game goes on. Like I said, it doesn't guarantee the over. It just is the only side that I'm considering for like further analysis here. In terms of player props, there should be a lot of points scored in this game, so I do think that there could be some overlooks, but honestly, nothing that I really love. I could consider Scotty Barnes over 7.5 rebounds, just given the fact that, you know, there should be a lot of volume in this spot, that type of thing. But again, nothing really jumping off the page to me. Speaking about nothing jumping off the page, we have the Rockets taking on the Grizzlies. This is one of the, I would say, one of the worst games on the slate here, so we won't spend too much time on it. I'm going to lean towards the Rockets, even though I continue to fade them when they are on the road. This is a Memphis team that does not really scare me. They already went through their covering every game period, right? Now they're not doing it, so I'm going to stick away from it. I'm going to lean towards the Rockets, but I don't think I'll be putting a final play on that whatsoever. Now, the total sitting at 219.5 here, 219 on most sports books. If you like the under, go for it. I wouldn't consider the over. I think that this could be one where people think, oh, it's a low number, let's take it. But think about these two offenses you're betting on. I think the under could be the only play in this spot. And if you couldn't tell my disdain for this game, I don't really have any player props that I'm considering. But speaking of player props, guys, make sure you go ahead and check out Sleeper. I've talked to you about it before, and I'll continue to talk to you about them because they're a great DFS pick'em app. They do so many things unique, like each and every play having its own dynamic multiplier for your payout, so they don't just follow the fixed payout structure like a lot of the other apps do. And if you use the link in the pinned comment, you'll get 100% of your first deposit matched up to $500. That's absolutely insane. And you get the Steph Curry square as a new user over 0.5 points. His normal line is 29.5, right? So they think he's going to score 30 points as the over. You're going to get him at 1 point. That seems like a little bit of a discount to me. Go check out Sleeper, guys. If it's legal in your state, you got to be hopping on Sleeper. You see me posting on TikTok and on the shorts. I've been loving this app as of late. Go check out Sleeper. Again, link in the pinned comment. You get the square and you get the deposit match. Go ahead and check it out. All right, Pelicans taking on the Wizards. This is a big spread, 12.5 points. I don't mind it, though. Like, that is going to be the side I'm leaning on. This is a Pelicans team that is just far better than the Wizards. My only concern, and it is a decent concern, is that the pace that the Pelicans have been playing at is not that fast whatsoever. So for them to be able to get to a point where they're playing slow basketball but stretching that lead to winning by 13 is a little worrisome, but hopefully Washington's pace themselves kind of ups this just a little bit and allows the Pelicans to play a little bit faster. They're not the best transition team. They don't like to do it, but again, I do think that they're a way better team here. Washington has lost, it's 8 of their last 10. They've lost 7 straight games. We know what Washington is. And the Pelicans, on the other hand, in their last 7 games here, they've won 6 of them. They haven't had the hardest schedule. They've played Memphis, Portland, Toronto, San Antonio, Houston. They haven't played the hardest schedule, but I do still think that they're a far better team. Zion's on the injury report as questionable. Doesn't impact my lean on this game whatsoever. I still like the Pelicans. Now, total-wise, 234. I've actually seen some 235s out there. Seems a little bit too high for me, so I'm going to lean towards the over. Seems too high. I'm going to lean towards the over. I'm going to lean towards the under because, like I already kind of alluded to, right? It's like this Pelicans team does not play with that much pace. They're playing really efficient, but they'll go in their little spurts of high scoring and then low scoring, high scoring, low scoring. I truly believe they're in one of those low scoring spurts right now, and I don't anticipate them just jumping out of it for one game, prior to the All-Star break here. So I'm going to lean towards the under as well. Player props, I don't mind, and I hate it because we keep leaning this guy, and every time we've bet him, I feel like we've got screwed. We hit 4 bets on him in one night, and since then, I don't think we've cashed one. Brandon Ingram here over his points. Now, his line is at 23.5. That's a little bit too high for me, but he had 40 last time he played Washington. They're a team that lets up plenty of mid-range jumper, and what do I tell you guys? Brandon Ingram should tattoo a mid-range jumper on his forehead. The dude loves him, so that's a player prop lean, but again, 23.5, that's damn high. This thing, we used to take it at 18.5, and now it's up to 23.5. Yikes. Dallas is hosting San Antonio here. Dallas right now 11-point favorites. Makes sense why. This is a San Antonio team that just is not a good team, right? But they did have that win against Toronto, so we'll give them credit there. But Dallas also looked like a pretty damn good team. 4-1 in their last 5 games against the spread. They've won those 5 games straight up, and they've played, some decent teams, beating OKC the other night. They're 1.5-point dogs. They beat them by 30-something points. So, yeah, Dallas is looking good. My one kind of call to concern here would be this seems like such a spot where teams about to head into the the All-Star break and all that. Kyrie and Luka are on the injury report, which they have been for forever. But it's like, okay, like I think this could be a spot where they're like, yeah, we don't need you guys against San Antonio. And if they do play, we don't need you to play a bunch of a minute. So this could be too big of a number. I can't lean towards San Antonio, though, but kind of buyer beware on this one. Give me Dallas minus the points, though. Total sitting at 240.5. This is one that I think could be, there could be a million points scored in this game. Both teams like to play in transition, and both of them are top half in the league in terms of pace here. And if Dallas just gets going whatsoever, I don't think that they look back. Both games this season have gone over this mark. October 25th, you had 126 to 119, Dallas win. And then December 23rd, you had a 144 to 119, Dallas win. So there should be a lot of points scored in this game. My concern would be that, it's so much, it seems so easy. Still kind of a high number, right? Like asking both teams to, if they carried 50% of the weight, score 120. It seems like a lot, but I think it still could get done. And I know I just mentioned these guys are questionable. If they play and if they do kind of get the run, I don't mind taking a peek at their three-pointers makes line. Now it's a little bit too high for me, to be completely honest. For like looking at someone like Luka over 3.5 seems super high. Kyrie Irving 2.5, don't mind that. But if we can get some potential value on those, like aka one sportsbook is kind of mispriced or something like that, maybe that's something worth considering for sure. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll let you guys know in the pin comment if we pull the trigger. But like I said, if I don't really trust that these guys are gonna get full minutes tonight, and it's just kind of my opinion, right? Like maybe they do, then it's a little bit worrisome to pull the trigger on hoping Luka hits 4 threes and Kyrie hits 3, right? But nonetheless, keep an eye on the pin comment for that one. All right, guys, for the rest of the video, because we're recording early, we don't actually have many player props available out right now. So maybe I'll speak in some like hypotheticals or something like that, but just FYI, maybe for the next 4 games, we don't have that many player props to discuss here. But we're jumping into Denver taking on Sacramento in this spot. Denver is at home. That's a huge deal to me in terms of Denver on the road and at home. They're coming off of 2 straight losses. One of those losses, actually, we're on the right side of both of them. We faded them twice on the road. We took the Sacramento Kings, and then we took the Bucks and cashed both of us. But we're flipping back to the Denver side now. Like, this is a Denver team, again, way different team at home. My only cause for concern or call for concern here is that this is a Sacramento team that's awesome on the road this season against the spread. Like, they're playing really well. In fact, they're covering in nearly, I think it's like 60% of their games, which is, yeah, shout out to them. That's good. But Denver's at home, and they need a win. They don't want to go into the All-Star break with this sour taste in their mouth. So I think that they get the job done here. Sacramento, they're on a back-to-back as well. A loss to Phoenix last night. Sacramento on back-to-backs this season, covering in just 28% of games. That's pretty damn bad if you know what 100% means, and 28%, pretty low. So I'm going to lean towards Denver in this spot. I like them, minus the 6 points. Maybe we buy a point and a half. 4.5 sounds a little bit better, right? So we'll keep an eye on the pin comment for that, but definitely has a chance to be a final play. But again, not forcing anything today. Now the total sitting at 229.5. I've gone back and forth on this one. Denver at home, I do consider an under team, and the Kings defense seems to play better when they are on the road. So I'm going to lean towards the under in this spot, 229.5. We've seen this Denver team play very much under basketball from their side of things, right? And I think it continues here. Now, they just had a huge game against the Kings, 135 to 106. But like I said, I think the Denver defense will be better, and I also think the Sacramento defense will be better. So give me the under in this spot. And no major player props that I'm looking at in this spot either. I wouldn't hate some Jamal Murray action, but we'll see how that turns out. We do have him on the injury report. I think he's doubtful or questionable. So yeah. Could be. I probably should have mentioned that with the Denver spread. It doesn't matter to me all that much, even if he does play, because I think Denver cares about winning this game just as much. But Jamal Murray is doubtful, so worth mentioning that. Suns taking on the Pistons here. Suns coming off of that back-to-back win last night, like I said, 130 to 125 over the Kings. We were on the right side of that one. Detroit coming off of a bad loss. I guess it's not a bad loss, but pretty bad loss. But I'm putting it in like Detroit perspective. They have a bunch of bad losses, but they had been covering a lot of games. So I guess their expectations could have been a little bit higher, and it was a bad loss against the Lakers there. This is a spot in which I do think that the Suns may want to like kind of cheese through it. They're on a back-to-back, which isn't the best, right? And they have a kind of veteran-studded cast that it's kind of like, yeah, maybe like Detroit actually has an upper hand here because both teams are on a back-to-back. Detroit isn't all that bad on back-to-backs. Phoenix isn't bad, but we're also heading into the All-Star break in which this is a team that, kind of probably takes their foot off the gas in this spot. So give me Detroit plus the points. I don't think I love that as much, as it may seem. So I don't think that becomes a final play. In terms of the total, though, 234.5 seems a little bit too high for me. So if you look at what Phoenix has done as of late, sure, they've scored 129, 130. They're also having these games where they score 112, 110. And Detroit's offense really isn't kicking it to gear now. So I could see this game being like a 101 to 111 type of a game where Detroit covers. The Suns still kind of won with, I guess you could say with ease, but it stays under that 234.5 mark. So I'm going to lean towards the under in this spot as well. All right, Utah taking on the Lakers. This is weird to me. LeBron James and Anthony, of all games, right? They're on the second night of a back-to-back. They're heading into the All-Star break. Of all games in which you'd expect them to be on the injury report, this would be one of them, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis not on the injury report for this game. So that's a little weird to me. And when I say a little weird, that's freaking weird to me. You do have Utah in a look-ahead spot. They play Golden State tomorrow. So this isn't their last game before the All-Star break. But I'm going to take the Lakers plus the points. If LeBron and AD are playing, I'll take them in this spot. I think that they match up fairly well. I don't know if this becomes a final play because, again, this is weird to me, really weird. LeBron and Anthony Davis are always on the injury report. Now they're on a second night of a back-to-back with a big break coming up, and it's just we're not on the injury report. Kind of head scratching, but if that's the case, I'll take the Lakers and the points. If this spread was flipped, I'd probably lean towards the Jazz. So I ideally think that this is going to be a fairly close game here. In terms of the total, 240.5. I guess you could convince me this game's going over. You have the Lakers who are playing at lightning fast pace, and you have Utah here that's playing at a top 10 pace in the league right now as well. Lakers on a back-to-back. They've covered in 67% of games in terms of the over when they are on back-to-backs. Don't mind that at all. So yeah, I guess I'll lean Lakers and the over in this spot here. Player prop wise, again, we don't have anything to truly look at here. I do think that this is a Lakers team that struggles covering shooting guards, so maybe we look at Colin Sexton again. I want to see what his line comes out to before we end up making a play on that or anything, but definitely don't mind taking a peek at him. I know his minutes have been kind of getting knocked a little bit, but if his line is 18.5 or something like that, I do think that there could be some value there in a fast-paced game again. All right, Golden State minus 3.5 at home as they take on the Clippers. No Kawhi Leonard in this one here. In terms of Golden State injuries, they're looking pretty healthy. Just Chris Paul is out, which it's kind of been the case for a while now. Golden State, in terms of their last few games here, a bunch of wins in a row. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They've beat good teams and bad teams. They're kind of just doing their job and playing good basketball. The Clippers, on the other hand, they've won 7 of their last 3, only covered in 5 of those, and it's been kind of rocky as of late. They've lost 2 of their last 3. The only win they had was against Detroit. Now, Golden State has this back-to-back. I just mentioned it with Utah. They're playing tomorrow, so I don't know if that's something that gets in their head or anything like that, but, without Kawhi Leonard, I don't know if I can fully trust this Clippers team, so I'll lean towards Golden State in this spot here. Again, it's really coming down to that Kawhi Leonard thing. But if you're on the Clippers side of things, I'd be like, yeah, I still get it. They have plenty of guys that can kind of fill in. Not for him particularly, but they have a good enough team that they should still be okay. But yeah, I like Golden State just because they're playing better basketball. In terms of the total, I also like the under. This is going to be a game in which I could see Golden State having a game like they played against the Suns a few nights back, which ended up being a very grindy and gritty game. I could totally see that happening with the Clippers. Last time they played, it was 121 to 113, so that one, just barely went, I guess technically just barely stayed under, but was a high-scoring game. But before that, 113 to 112. Before that, 120 to 114. Those are 3 meetings this year, all under this number. 2 of them landed on the hook, but still, I do think that these teams can kind of get a little bit more gritty and, every possession counts type of thing. But no major player props in this game either. But, guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Keep an eye on the pinned comment because we do have some player props we're still waiting to see lines for, and I might not have talked about them in the video. But, yeah, make sure you guys are staying smart when betting these games because of the All-Star break and everything. But very, very excited to see this All-Star game. Let me know in the comments if you guys want some All-Star game content too. I don't know what we do, dunk contest, 3-point, maybe all-star game, just like predictions. I don't know. But yeah, want to know if you guys would like that or something like that. So let me know in the comments and make sure you hit that subscribe button and like in the video. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.